Hello everybody and welcome back. Tonight we go to the northwest coast of Scotland. Up above the Galloway Forest, if you move through the mountains and the moors there, you will end up at a small place called Newmilns, and it's up in Kilmarnock, as I said, on the west coast. And there's a gentleman there who got in touch and he reported something to me that happened to him when he was a child. And he says, "Hi, my name is Martin, and I experienced something really weird when I was a kid, and I wanted to report it and see if anyone else has ever experienced the same thing. My family are a traveller family, and in my younger days, we would move from area to area as we needed to. At one point, we moved from a farm in Blackrod, which is near to Chorley in Lancashire. We lodged on that farm for a long while. We stayed in one of the caravans, but there came a time when the farmer decided to sell up and move. And when he did buy his new farm, we decided to move with him. It was a long move, and as I had to travel out of England and into Scotland, and that seemed a really long way to travel as a kid at my age. The area we moved to was called Newmilns, and it was in Kilmarnock. It was very remote, and we were situated about 10 miles from the nearest town. Sometimes in winter we had to literally use a tractor to get food from the nearest village and back because the snow was that deep. The farm was absolutely huge from my recollection, around about 2,000 acres, surrounded by dense forest, and not far from us was the moors, the rivers and the streams, and there was no people around except us. As a 10-year-old lad, my dad used to send me out hunting with a .22 rifle to catch and kill rabbits and pheasants and small birds for the ferrets that we kept. And also collecting wood for the log burners in the caravans was another of my responsibilities around the place. So I was often out on my own in the woods and fields. I have heard some really freaky stuff out in those woods, and I've seen a lot of dead animal carcasses that looked out of place, even to me, being used to the countryside and the way animals take and kill prey. I didn't recognise the animal responsible for these kills. When I think back, and with what I now know I can say there was a lot of UFO activity in that area. We all saw strange lights in the sky at night, all the time. So often as a young child, it just became the norm. As I said, I was only young, and only now as I'm older and I have access to the internet that I started to put two and two together, so to speak. What sticks in my mind, out most in my memory, is one day in particular. I was out hunting, as usual, about a mile away from where we were camped. I was moving quietly, keeping my eyes open and trying not to disturb any birds until I wanted to. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had an overwhelming sense that someone or something was watching me. I realised everything around me was dead quiet. No bird song, no wind in the trees, nothing. Just dead silence. That was very unnerving. I was overwhelmed by fear and looking all around me, trying to make out someone hiding in the shrub, looking for movement or movement of sound that would give them away. It wasn't the middle of the night and dark, it was daytime, and the light shimmering through the trees can play tricks on a human mind. As I was looking, I thought I saw something moving in there, but it's so dense in those pine trees, and I just realised they could be anywhere, so I set off running. Whatever was there was following me out of those woods, crashing and banging, but every time I looked back, I couldn't see it. I ran really fast as a kid, and I was quite proud of the fact that nobody could catch me at running back then. But whatever it was keeping up with me, and I think catching up to me also. I heard branches and twigs snapping behind me, but at that point I stopped, looking back because I knew it was hot on my heels. I hear of all those missing 411 cases now, and all that runs through my mind is I could have been on that list, but I outran it. Not too far away, and if you follow the river, you come to a place in Kilmarnock called Dundonald. And this is an account from 1994. And Josephine Aldridge from England says she will never go up the hill again as long as she lives. She'd recently been spending a little time in Kilmarnock in the summer of '94, and for a day out she decided to visit Dundonald Castle. While walking on the hill, her two Labradors suddenly went berserk, running around in circles and growling and snapping at the air, before finally slinking to the ground as far as they could go with their tails tucked beneath them, crawling backwards in obvious terror. Then Josephine saw, in her words, this huge creature, which appeared some distance to the side of her. She'd not noticed it before, and she assures us that it's been there earlier. She would most certainly have seen it. It did not seem to be solid, as Josephine could see the grass of the hill through its body. But it was covered in longish charcoal-coloured hair, she said. It made no indentations in the grass, and Josephine, on reflection, thought it was ghost-like. The thing that struck them most terror was its eyes, 2 long slits which glowed a bright red. It had 2 holes where the nose should have been, and very thick lips. In fact, it was not dissimilar to a gorilla in shape, although it stood well over 10 feet tall on 2 legs. When confronted by the strange sight, Josephine began to pray, and the creature after a few moments slowly faded out of sight. But the dog's attitude never changed, and the young Englishwoman felt sure that the monster was still there, although it couldn't be seen. Josephine left Dundonald Hill in a hurry. Not too far behind her came the whimpering dogs. Now, on Dundonald Hill in 1993, it was said to be the home of a creature, and not many dared venture out onto the hill, says the blog, alone or without good reason. The dogs of Dundonald Castle were said to become very restless and agitated and excited at times while looking out towards the hill, barking and yelping. Never, under any circumstances, would they wander up to it, or so I'm told. People have reported a strange creature or a haunting call, if that's a haunting call on the hill, right up to this present time. Frightened folk have told of shadows that haunt the trees. One badly shaken man related how when walking on the hill he heard whispering voices behind him. On turning around he saw nothing. This happened 2 or 3 times before he decided to take solace with a stiff drink in a local bar. Another man reports of seeing 2 ghostly squat-shaped, featureless shadows trailing him from nearby trees. These shadows then merged together as one, growing to twice its size. He then also left the hill, not wanting to see what happened next. The same entity has also been described as being able to jump straight upwards into the branches of the trees. Another witness from the area, George, who likes to spend a lot of time fishing and walking and camping, decided to spend the night in the hill during the summer of '93. He took along his dog, who had never left his side since it was a pup. He arrived just after sunset and began to erect his tent. Deciding to settle down with a book, he lay atop his sleeping bag fully dressed. After about an hour, George saw a shadow pass by his side of the tent through the lamplight. He thought it strange that anybody would be in this area at that night. Again the shadow loomed over the tent, and at this point George swears he heard a kind of rasping or a breathing sound. He stayed in that tent until the morning time. Until next time, good night.